What is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today, we are doing something a little different. We are digging into the latest manual for surviving the absolute chaos that is modern life. We are talking about Brené Brown's book, Strong Ground. The full title is Strong Ground, The Lessons of Daring Leadership, the Tenacity of Paradox, and the Wisdom of the Human Spirit. Yeah, I know. It is a mouthful. It sounds like a course you take in your fifth year of college because you need 3 credits to graduate, and you think it's going to be easy, but then you end up crying in the library during finals week. But stick with me, because this book is actually the playbook we need right now. If you know Brené, you know she is usually telling us to be vulnerable, to take off the armor, to get in the arena and get our butts kicked. And that is all still true. But Strong Ground is different. This isn't just about getting kicked and getting back up. This is about how you stand so you don't get knocked into next week in the first place. It is about stability, but not the boring standing still kind of stability. It is about dynamic stability. So grab a coffee or a protein shake or whatever keeps you upright, and let's break this down. The first big lesson, and honestly the core metaphor of the whole book, is what Brené calls the athletic stance. She opens the book with this story about how she absolutely wrecked herself playing pickleball. Yeah, pickleball, the most dangerous sport known to suburban mankind. She talks about writhing on the ground in pain, which is ironic because the book is called Strong Ground, and she was definitely on the ground, but it wasn't exactly strong. It was messy. But that injury led her to this realization about how we hold ourselves when life comes at us fast. Most of us, when we get stressed or scared, we do one of two things. We either lock our knees and get super rigid, or we go totally limp and collapse. Think about it like you're riding the subway or a bus, and you decide you are too cool to hold the handrail. If you lock your knees and stand perfectly straight, the train stops and you are going to faceplant into the sliding doors. You are rigid, so you are fragile. On the other hand, if you're too loose, if you're slumped over looking at your phone, the train stops and you go flying into a stranger's lap. Also, not a great look. The athletic stance is what athletes do right before the whistle blows. Knees bent, weight centered, eyes up. You are grounded, but you are ready to move. You can take a hit, you can pivot, you can lunge. Brené says that in leadership and in life, we have to find this physical and mental position. She calls it grounded confidence. It means you aren't so stubborn that you can't change your mind, but you aren't so flimsy that you have no values. You know that friend who changes their personality depending on who they're dating? They start dating a vegan. Suddenly they're lecturing you about almond milk. They date a biker. Suddenly they own a leather jacket. That is weak ground. That is loose knees. Strong ground is knowing who you are, so when the world shakes, and it will shake, you move with it, but you don't fall over. Lesson number 2 is a concept she calls pocket presence. This is straight-up football terminology. For those of you who don't spend your Sundays screaming at the TV, let me explain. The pocket is the area the offensive line forms around the quarterback to protect him. It's safe, but only for like 2.5 seconds. Then the pocket collapses. You have 300-pound guys trying to murder you. Pocket presence is the ability to stand in that chaos, feel the pressure, feel the walls closing in, and still make a calm, accurate throw downfield. Most people do not have pocket presence. Most people have panic presence. The second things get crazy at work, like the deadline is moved up, the client is yelling, and the printer is on fire, most people scramble. They start throwing the ball anywhere. They send frantic emails. They blame people. They curl up in a ball. Brené says the superpower of the future isn't avoiding the chaos. The chaos is here to stay. The superpower is learning to stay in the pocket. It's the ability to regulate your nervous system when everything around you is unregulated. It's like when you're at the airport and your flight gets canceled. Look around the gate. You'll see 2 types of people. Type A is screaming at the gate agent, who literally has zero control over the weather. They're red in the face, veins popping, locking their knees, and getting ready to break something. That is not strength. That is a tantrum. Type B has pocket presence. They take a breath, they accept the reality, They pull out their phone, rebook on a different airline, and go find the airport bar. They are still moving downfield. They aren't ignoring the problem, they're just refusing to let the pressure make them stupid. That is what we're aiming for. Calm in the maelstrom. Now let's talk about the third lesson, and this one is a bit trippy. It's called the Tenacity of Paradox. We love simple answers. We love binary choices. We want things to be good or bad, right or wrong, success or failure. But Brené argues that if you want to stand on strong ground, you have to get comfortable with things being two opposites at the exact same time. She uses this phrase, negative capability, which is a fancy term from the poet Keats, but don't worry about the poetry class flashback. Basically, it means being capable of being in uncertainties and doubts without reaching for an irritable search for reason. Here's a real-life example. Parenting, or just dealing with your family during the holidays. You can love your family with your whole heart and simultaneously want to hide in the bathroom and never come out. Those two feelings contradict each other, but they're both true. If you can't hold the paradox, you snap. You either decide, my family is perfect, and you ignore all the toxic stuff, which is delusion, or you decide, my family is a nightmare, and you cut them off, which might be necessary, but sometimes is just cynicism. The tenacity of paradox is standing in the middle and saying, this is messy, I love them, and they're driving me crazy. It's the same with yourself. You have to accept that you're a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same time. You are doing great, and you need to get your act together. Both are true. Brené talks about this specifically with leadership. You have to be confident enough to lead, but humble enough to admit you don't know the answer. You have to be urgent about getting things done, but patient enough to do them right. It's like walking a tightrope. If you lean too far to one side, you fall. You have to constantly balance. That's the tenacity. It takes effort to hold two opposing thoughts without your brain exploding. Next up, we have to talk about unlearning. This is a huge theme in Strong Ground. Brené talks about how we're all carrying around old armor that doesn't fit anymore. Imagine you're a kid and you learn that the way to stay safe is to be quiet and never make waves. Maybe you had a scary teacher or a strict parent, so you learned to be invisible. That was your armor. It worked. It got you through third grade. But now you're 35. You're in a management position, and you're still trying to be invisible. You never speak up in meetings. You never defend your team. That armor that saved you back then is suffocating you now. Unlearning is the process of looking at your habits and asking, is this actually keeping me safe, or is it just keeping me small? It's like wearing a heavy winter coat in the middle of July because it kept you warm last December. Dude, take the coat off. You look ridiculous, and you're overheating. But unlearning is terrifying, because when you take off the armor, you feel naked. You feel exposed. Brené mentions that a lot of leaders and people in general are unskilled at being human right now. We've forgotten how to have tough conversations because we're so used to hiding behind screens or hiding behind our professionalism. She says we need to build new muscles. And just like going to the gym for the first time in 5 years, building new emotional muscles hurts. You're going to be sore. You're going to feel clumsy. You're going to try to set a boundary with your boss and it's going to come out weird and awkward. That's okay. That's the athletic stance. You stumble, you recover, you try again. Next up, we have to talk about lock in and lock through. She talks to Abby Wambach about this. You know, the soccer legend? It's about transitions. In a relay race, the most dangerous part isn't the running. It's the handoff, passing the baton. If you drop the baton, the race is over. In our lives, we're constantly in transition. We are transitioning from work to home, from single to married, from junior employee to boss, from I know what I'm doing to wait, everything changed and now I'm lost. Lock in is that moment of focus where you grab the baton. Lock through is the momentum to keep going. Think about your commute home from work. That is a transition. Most of us do it poorly. We carry the stress from the office right through the front door and dump it on our dog or our partner. We didn't lock through the transition. We just crashed. Developing a ritual for these transitions is part of finding your strong ground. Maybe you sit in the car for 5 minutes and listen to a song. Maybe you change your clothes the second you get home to signal to your brain, okay, work mode is off, home mode is on. If you don't manage the transitions, the stress bleeds into everything. It's like eating soup with a fork. It's just messy and ineffective. And look, we have to talk about the generational stuff she brings up. Brené spends a good chunk of the book worrying about Gen Z. Not in a kids these days boomer way, but in a we are sending them into a storm without a raincoat way. She's talking about how young people are entering the workforce in a time of unprecedented chaos. AI is changing everything. The economy is weird. Social media has fried our attention spans. And her argument is that we're not teaching them the wisdom of the human spirit. We're teaching them to be efficient, to be productive, to be brands. But we aren't teaching them how to deal with failure. We aren't teaching them how to sit in the pocket when things go wrong. She is calling on the older generations, the elders if you want to feel old, to stop complaining about young people and start modeling this groundedness. You can't tell a kid to be resilient if you freak out every time the Wi-Fi goes down. You have to model the strong ground. You have to show them what it looks like to fail, admit it, and keep moving. So how do we wrap this up? What is the big takeaway from Strong Ground? It is that the world is not going to slow down. The uncertainty is not going away. You cannot wait for things to calm down before you start living your life. Things are never going to calm down. So you have to change your stance. Stop locking your knees. Stop trying to predict the future. Stop trying to be perfect. Bend your knees, lower your center of gravity, keep your eyes up. When the paradox comes, when things are terrible and wonderful at the same time, don't fight it, ride it. When the pressure comes, don't scramble, stay in the pocket. And when you realize you are wearing armor that doesn't fit anymore, be brave enough to take it off, even if you shiver for a bit. Brené Brown isn't asking you to be a superhero. She is asking you to be an athlete of the human spirit. She wants you to be durable. So this week, catch yourself. When you feel that tightness in your chest, when you feel like digging your heels in and fighting reality, check your stance. Are you locked up or are you ready to move? Find your strong ground, plant your feet, and let's play ball. Thanks for listening. Catch you on the next one.